And howdy, everyone. Eric Allard here, Senior Vice President of Tilson Homes, part of the fourth generation of the Tilson family. So excited that you're joining us today for Tilson Live. And I am joined, as I always am, by the great, the wonderful, the all things magnificent of marketing, the maven of marketing, Dawn Dantzler. How you doing, Dawn?
Good. How are you?
Oh, doing great. Doing great. We have a little weather our way. So I'm apologetic. We had to call an audible on the backdrop. The office that I was in this morning was it was okay for like working internet, but video
Not so much.
was bouncing a little bit, and we can't take the chance on Tuesdays. We can't take that chance.
No, absolutely not.
So we are here today to talk about one of the most important subjects. But before we get to that, obviously, tell us howdy, tell us where you're watching from, tell us where you're building. Love to hear what you have going on. If you're a customer under construction with us, drop that in there as well. Let us know what stage you are sitting on right now. And also, you just want to tell us hello. Just say hi. Say howdy. Say how you doing. Looking for that. So I do know that little weather headed everybody's way in the southeastern part of Texas today. So hope everybody is safe and not get on the roads unless you have to. I know for sure our Angleton office was without power this morning. I think that was the only one. We had some damage in spring, a little bit of wind damage, but nobody hurt. Everybody good. And so, yeah, we're here to talk to you folks today. What are we talking about today, Dawn Dantzler?
We are going to talk about site prep. So, one of the unique things about Build on Your Lot is congratulations, you just became a land developer, because all of those things that, you're in your previous life being in a pre-developed community were done for you and you didn't even know happened. Now you get to be a part of that process. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah, it's the biggest contrast between building a home, having a home built for you in a subdivision production world versus building a custom home on your own land is, that part up front, that site development. And what we had, that's really the biggest question people have is, why does it take so long? Mm-hmm. Why does it take so long? I mean, the last 2 years aside, like forget the supply chain shortages and labor shortages of COVID and all that. Always we've had to get the land ready to build and then build.
Right.
So there's, in most cases, there's no power, there's no water, there's no construction drive, there's no culvert, there's no 911 address yet. There's no permit to put the driveway in. A lot of cases, the state or the county has to tell you where to put it. You can't just put it wherever you want to. That takes some education, which, as it turns out, Dawn, that's why we're here.
I know. Yeah. Very exciting.
We want to answer all your questions. I'm sorry, Dawn, I interrupted. That's very rude.
It's okay. I was just going to say who was watching with us. So.
Yes. So she's going to tell us that. Also, as we get going, drop your questions in the chat. We're monitoring that as we always do. We're live on a different platform today, are we not? So we have.
Yes, we are testing out being live on our Vimeo channel. So we'll see how that
Vimeo
goes.
We're live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and live on Vimeo, which is different from Venmo. Is that right? If they want to Venmo.
Yes. Nobody's going to make you send money to watch on Vimeo. So it's going to be all right.
So if you want to watch us on Vimeo, we're over there as well. So Vimeo, YouTube, and Facebook. And now, where are people watching from? What's going on, Dawn?
All right. Well, we've got Brandon coming in from Hatchie. As he told us last week, that is what the locals call it.
Waxahachie is known as
Hatchie.
Or the Hatchie.
The Hatchie, yes. We've got Julie. She had her stakeout with Christian. She's going to have that on Friday in Montague County. Awesome. And we have Alta Gracia. Howdy. We are building a new Waverly, currently in Conroe.
Oh, very nice. Right up running away from the big city. I like it.
Yes. Mandy is watching from San Antonio, hoping to build in Stockdale soon.
Very pretty. Same thing. Heading out and west.
Amy watching from Taylor, building the Angelina near Belton Lake. Had our site visit 2 weeks ago. Awesome. So you are just in time on this one then.
Amy, you are tuned into the right one.
Yeah.
All the rest of you are as well.
Yes, everybody is. But yeah. Denise is watching from Travis County.
Awesome.
Susan just had her cabinets installed yesterday. So Susan can give advice to everybody else because she's already gone through all of this stuff.
She has. She's jumped through all the hoops, cleared all the hurdles, and now it's taking shape. Awesome.
All right. We got Lisa coming in from Wharton County. Matt also knows what's up. He got his shingles yesterday, spray foam on Friday in Mason County.
Oh, all right. Matt's way out west. That's awesome.
All right. We got Martina coming in from Colleen, moving to Avant, waiting for our appraisal to come back, have construction drive, power, and water scheduled in the next 2 weeks.
Martina.
She is on top of it.
Martina's going to join us live. She's going to walk you through the process. I'm going to go take a nap.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Nikki is watching from Keller, building in Decatur.
Headed to Wise County. Love it.
Dean is in Houston, building in Round Mountain. I'm in site development stage now, and it is something to say the least. Yes, it is. Getting there slowly but surely.
Yeah, Dean. So I'm glad you tuned in. Hopefully we can give you a few hacks or at least set some expectations for you.
Mm-hmm. Tanya, the Thompsons from San Antonio and building in Spring Branch, building a customized 6-bedroom Preston and might get ACC floor plan approval today, awaiting their decision. So excited to get released for construction soon. So all fingers crossed for you.
Take them some cupcakes, Tanya. Take them, some cookies.
Mm-hmm. They're your future neighbors. Make friends.
That's right.
Make friends.
That's right. And remind them of that they have to live by you.
Yeah. Remind them that they have to look you in the face every day. If they say no, like they better have a good reason. We've got Sam coming in from Sugar Land.
Hope you're staying dry, Sam.
We got Mary closing on land in Cedar Creek Friday. Already met with our team in Georgetown. Awesome.
Wonderful.
All right. We have Sarah coming in from Goliad. Melissa building in Bastrop. Color and stakeout appointment is next week.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. We got Patrick coming in from San Antonio, hopefully to be building in Bandera soon in 2022. All right.
Yeah, you and everybody else, Patrick, they're leaving San Antonio.
Martina says she's happy to join us live. So
get your chance.
Amanda, she is asking a question. How are you handling the transformer shortages? Can your builder start on generator power?
Great question, Amanda. So yeah, we unfortunately, we're not the ones that get to handle it. It's the electrical providers. Honestly, there is a shortage. Shocker, there's a shortage of everything, and transformers. So transformers are the thing that transform the power coming through the electrical lines down to something that's manageable in like a breaker box. I'm pointing to one. Trust me, there's a breaker box over here.
We believe you.
Yeah, it's there. So yeah, it's really there's not much we can do. We can. Sometimes the foundation contractors will have generators just because they're just doing some simple saw cuts on the batter boards and on the form boards themselves. But, we really prefer not to start framing a home on generator power because, again, we need to have some type of a timeline from the provider of what it's going to be like to get power out there. And so, we're going to talk both about temporary power and permanent power today, with the main focus being on temporary. But in either case, if they have to run poles and do what they do, they call it doing construction. So a power company's version of doing construction is setting poles or setting pedestals or transformers on the property. And yeah, they're in short supply. So let us know what the provider is, who it is, if it's Pernalis Electric Co-op or Guadalupe Valley or one of those. Let us know, drop it in the comments maybe, or send us a private message. We'll see if we can help with that, but not the first I've heard of it, unfortunately.
All right. Brandon says he is building a Travis, aka the Baby Canyon in Klondike, getting the construction drive put in this week, septic design and soil samples next week, and then electric and water here in the next month or so. He is on top of it.
Yeah, everybody write that down. Write down Brandon Smith from the Hatchie. He's got it figured out.
Yes, that's the state. That's the stages. He and Martina can give the presentation for us. Yeah. Megan's coming in for Victoria, close to being done. Tile in the bathrooms and backsplash and kitchen done yesterday. Awesome.
Fantastic.
Phil is looking for land to come up to sale in Anderson.
Yeah.
Eric, have you seen anything in your travels?
So yeah, there is some stuff from time to time. There was actually a piece that came up not long ago, but it had this talking about other issues. It had how did they describe it on the listing? They described it as unrecorded access, which translation in builder speak means they don't have legal access. So it's a really beautiful 22-acre site. Unfortunately, you're crossing someone else's property to get there, which is owned by like 17 heirs, and it's a hot mess. And yeah, no touchy. So anyway, wishing you luck, Phil.
Look out for that phrase.
Yeah. Unrecorded access.
Bad.
Alarms, red flags, things like that. Yeah.
All right. We've got Julie watching from Plano, own land in Coryell County.
Awesome. Shout out to
And
Florida.
then we have Dante building a canyon in Dripping Springs. Forms should go up this week.
Okay.
Awesome.
There's a
All
lot of
right.
folks coming in on this one.
There are.
A lot of great information. Again, drop your questions, comments, anything in the chat. We will answer them as we go. We do have a presentation for this one.
Mhm.
And again, we've done it before, but people are always just jumping into different parts of the process. So we are going to take it away, right, Don? We're going to go on and talk about developing the land. And again, this is the part you didn't have to do if you bought a home that was already in a subdivision. So the roads that were in there, the power lines that were there, even the building permit, most likely, the water, the sewer or septic, all of that stuff was done before you ever walked into the sales office with the other builder or the sales trailer, as it were. All done.
Right.
Whereas when you're building on your own land, none of that has been done yet in most cases. If you have an existing structure on there, you might be a little ahead of the curve. So if you have like a mobile home or maybe you're on family land and mom and dad have a house, on the 2 acres next to it, you might be able to shortcut some of this. But there's going to be something in here that definitely applies to everyone who's building a home on their own land. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about who we are, obviously building on your land, what that entails, important documents you need to know. There are some things that you, the homeowner, have to do, the landowner have to do that we can't legally do. That's a question we get a lot, Dawn, is, well, how come I'm having to take care of this stuff? Well, the land is in your name. We're going to talk about deeding over access and easements and things like that as we go on. Of course, utilities and getting access to the property itself, and then site planning and prep. We've been doing this a long time, Dawn. How long? I changed this just before live.
Yeah, so next year will be 90 years. So this is really up there for any of you who may be new to Tilson Live, and this is kind of the why you should listen to us. We've been doing it for a while, and kind of like Eric alluded to earlier in the presentation, we give these for information, so that whether you choose to build with Tilson or you choose to build with someone else on your land, you kind of have all the information and access to what you're getting into. So we've been doing this for 90 years. We founded in 1932. Texas family owned and operated for 4 generations. Eric is a member of the 4th generation. We have built 40,000 plus homes on our customers' own land throughout the state of Texas. It's all we do. And on average, 1.5 family per day moves into a Tilson home, because we are building a few more homes lately than when we originally did this.
We got to clean up some of these stats.
Yes, we do.
Next year. But yeah, so, I mean, basically, folks, if you're thinking about building a home on your land, the content that we put out there, that's what it's for. And whether you build with us or not, you need to watch this stuff, because it gives you good questions you need to ask. Now, we start talking about, doing LS swaps, engine rebuilds, things like that. Go ahead and tune out. It's not what we do. We're not good at it.
I have no idea what you just said. So
exactly. So
I won't talk about that.
When we're talking about building a home on your land and what you got to do to get ready for that, we are the authority, at least in the state of Texas. So anyway, moving on from that. What in the world does build on your lot mean? I hate the word lot, but it seems to be the industry term. So it can mean anything, though, right? And for us, traditionally, it means land, farm, ranch, that kind of stuff. But, your lakefront property, retirement or second home. But basically, it's having the home of your choice built exactly where you want to be. So that's what it's all about. Really, that little picture there kind of sums it up.
Yeah.
What's going on? So what are some of the things, Dawn, they have to get done before we can even think about starting construction?
So like we were talking about, this is your land. The operative word in built on your land is your. We don't own it. So there's certain things that you as the customer are going to need to do. In many cases, this is completely undeveloped property. There's never been anything here before. So we need a 911 address. Like, you have to let the county know, hey, I need an address for this. So they're going to give you the address. We can tell you how to go through doing that process, but that is something that the customer needs to apply for. Yep. One of the other things, utility setups. Again, it's your property. So to bring things like electric, sewer, if you're in an area like that, water, all of those types of things, you're the one that's going to have to kind of take the responsibility and take the lead, because a lot of these utility companies are going to require easements And since we don't own the property, we can't grant them that. Again, we're going to help you every step of the way, but you're going to have to be the one that's signing the paperwork for these things. Permit application filings. In some counties, only the property owner can file permits. So we'll help you put all of that together, but you're the one that's going to have to actually turn it in some cases. And then there's other responsibilities. So there are things that aren't necessarily included in the base price of our homes, just because we don't know with every customer if they're going to need it or not. And so the homeowner can do, the landowner can do it, the homeowner can do it, or we can take that on for them. But it's things like site clearing, septic systems, all of those other things that come with your home, driveways, sidewalks, things like that.
Brilliant. A lot. There's a lot going on, but we help
Yes.
you every step of the way. So before you build, there's just some things that have to be done. There are some very important documents we're going to walk you through. Utilities, site access, as Dawn mentioned, and then site plan and preparation. So let's start off with the important documents. All right, you got to have a deed. The property has to be in your name. That's a real thing. So if it's not in your name, we can't really do anything with it. And then ideally, you have title insurance on that. We are certainly going to open title regardless, and we'll know if there are any title issues. What title, well, we'll get to it in a second. What title tells us a lot of things. It tells us about easements that may not be on a survey or that you may not be able to see just on the raw land. I've said this before, but people ask all the time, well, can you build on this? Can you build on that? Come look at our land and see if you can build on it. And, you know, in all cases, I'm not worried about what I can see. Like, that's easy. I'm worried about the things I can't see. Right. So what's the soil like? How does it respond to moisture, lack of moisture? Are there easements that are recorded that I'm not seeing on, you know, is there a gas pipeline running right underneath here? Is there an aerial easement? So those are things that these documents will tell us. Same thing on the survey. And of course, deed restrictions. So even in unincorporated parts of the county out in the middle of nowhere, some of these folks have done these acreage subdivisions, and there are actually restrictions. You know, they have building setback lines, they have square footage minimums, they have masonry requirements. You know, 25%, 60%, 100% masonry. So those are things that we're definitely going to have to walk through. And again, those will be revealed to us in title on the title work. So a deed. What is a deed, Dawn? What does it even mean? Like a good deed? Like I did something good?
Not quite. So the deed is just the piece of paper that says you own it. So it's got your proof of ownership information on it. It's going to always list the seller and the buyer, so the grantor, the grantee. It's going to contain the legal property description. In some cases, it will have the sales price, but that's not necessary to have there. There has to be a seller's signature on there, and it must be notarized. And then last and most importantly, it must be recorded with the county in order to be a valid deed. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper.
Well, but you don't understand. My grandma told me that the land was going to be mine whenever she was gone. So that's all that matters. It counts.
I wish.
Yeah. So yeah, get that stuff squared away. Again, you'll see these things. This one is, you know, part of Goliad County, so been recorded, and so it's of public record. When you hear it recorded into the public record, this is what they're talking about. Title insurance, very, very, very important. Always buy a title policy. What this is, so title insurance is exactly that. It's an insurance policy. And it guarantees the changing of hand, the chain of title. This is not Itsy Bitsy Spider. This is the chain of title. So what happens is every time that land changes hands, and they go all the way back to in Texas, in a lot of cases, the Spanish land grants. Sometimes they have to trace the chain of title back to, but they go back to what's referred to in real estate as the sovereignty of the soil. So you go back far enough, all land belonged to the state, whether that was the state of Texas or the United States, it doesn't matter. But and then where it went from there, how it got to all the way down to you, the end user now. The title company does a full inspection of that and makes sure that every time it changed hands, it was clean. Everybody, all the heirs got in the will, all that kind of stuff was done. And any disputes, any judgments, tax liens, all that stuff is recorded and made sure. Now, anything that's not, they'll find it, and we will have to have it resolved before we can start construction. Now, Dawn, take us through a boundary survey, will you?
Sure. So a boundary survey is it's the drawing of the property, and it's going to show where the corner pins should be located, and you're going to want to have those. You're going to want to find those on your property and have them flagged. It's also going to show those building lines, easements, and setbacks that Eric was referring to earlier. So the building line is they'll dictate exactly where on the property you can build a permanent structure. So we need to know where that can happen. Easements, these are areas that like your utility company says, I need you to keep this clear of any type of permanent construction because I can come on and do things. And then any setbacks, how far away from the street do you need to be? It's going to show all the dimensions of the property. It should include your flood zone information. And also contain the RPLS seal and signature to show you that it is a valid survey.
Yeah, so just because this is a 2-acre site, just because you have 2 acres, let's say, does not necessarily mean you can build anywhere on that 2 acres that you want to. This would be some kind of deed restrictions or easements that would show up on title or in the deed restrictions. That yes, you own this entire where the dark black line is. That's all yours,
and you get to take care of it.
Yep, you take care of it. You're responsible for it. But the home you're building cannot sit on top of, in this particular case, you can't be within 25 feet of the side or 75 on the front, 100 from the back, different things like that. And the reason for that is, there's good reasons, and it's that they don't want neighbor on top of neighbor, right? Like you didn't buy an acre or two so that you could be 15 feet from your neighbor. In fact, that's why you bought an acre or two, so that you wouldn't be 15 feet from your neighbor. So there are things that make sense, but there are some things that we have to be aware of. And you need to be aware of as the buyer and the landowner so that we can't encroach on those things. There are things called variances sometimes where you can, but they're not easy to come by. So again, drainage easements, pipeline easements, utility easements, these are things that you can't build permanent structure on because they have to come through and maintain, if they have to run new water line or if they have to work on the the cable, you have to redo drainage for the county. You can't have a permanent structure sitting on top of those. So you still own the land. You can use it. You can grow grass on it, do whatever. You can even run your fence and driveway all the way up to the property line. That's actually done in this case. The driveway kind of does skirt over the building line. That's okay. Driveway in most instances is not considered permanent structure. I know that sounds weird, but you can bust up and replace driveway fairly easily. A house, a pool, a barn, a garage?
Not so much.
So very, very important. Speaking of the deed restrictions, we touched on these, but you're going to have, the idea is to protect the property value. Okay. And again, look, I'm not big on living in a subdivision, things like that, but they do have a role in protecting everyone's property value as a collective. You don't want to spend a bunch of money on a nice place and keep it up nice, and somebody can put something, a pig farm next door. That's a problem. That's going to have a negative impact on your property value. So all that to say, it always blows my mind how many people really didn't look at the deed restrictions when they bought a piece of property. So that's something that's really, really critical that, and I'm not disparaging land salespeople or realtors. What I am saying is it is your responsibility as the person signing on the dotted line to know everything that's, minimum square footages, maximum heights. We see a lot of that these days. They don't want people obstructing other people's views. We see that a lot in the hill country. Places like Lago Vista, subdivisions around there, like they have a maximum ridge height. You cannot build taller than that. And that's from the ground, by the way, not from the top of the slab. So those are things that garage requirements and they have minimums and maximums. So, if some customers want to build a 5 or 6 car garage, the subdivision only allows 3 max. So anyway, it's the homogeny of the subdivision. They don't want everything to look alike necessarily, but they want everything to be of the same quality and size roughly. Right. You don't want 1,000-foot houses next door to 5,000-foot houses. That doesn't make sense from a real estate value perspective. So anyway, next, I think the question's already stacking up about utilities, because this is the hardest part, I believe, Dawn.
The hardest part. It's one of the things that takes the most amount of time, especially right now.
Yeah, especially right now. So let's jump in and talk about power. And we can bring up some questions if we want to. I see some that are showing up. But anyway, determining who's providing and where they will connect. And here's the deal. So Texas, here's something very important to know, folks. Texas is a deregulated state. In other words, you have the power to choose the retail provider that you have, if and only if you're not in a co-op. Most of our customers are in a co-op, so you don't have any options. You're going to get power from whoever the local cooperative is. They were set up eons ago, not before electricity, obviously, just after. But basically, building power infrastructure is expensive. Okay, so no one farmer is going to have enough money to build this power grid infrastructure. One or two might, but broadly speaking, most people don't have that. So a cooperative is formed, a collective of people who put money into this co-op, and collectively it provides power for everybody. Everybody puts it, and you become a member of the co-op, and you get a dividend check and all that kind of good stuff. Now, you're not going to get rich off being a member of a co-op. Okay, that's not why they were set up, and that's not how it works. But the reason I'm going into all that is to tell you they all have different rules. Mm-hmm. There's an overarching code, okay, and we understand that, but every co-op has different rules for how they want their stuff set up, and that is their prerogative. We can't argue with them. We can't fight with them. You can negotiate with them, maybe, but not usually. This is the way they do it. This is the poles you provide. This is what we provide. This is what you have to provide, and it's different all over the state of Texas, which is why you don't see it in our base pricing, because there's some places where it costs next to nothing, and they'll put a 400 amp service with a transformer and pedestal and everything for $1,800. And there's other places where that's going to cost $30,000. And that's just the way it is in Texas. It's a big place, and running power in some places is cheaper than others. So we will need temporary power to build the home. Okay, and it does not necessarily have to be where permanent power is going to go. We do need to know where the permanent power is going to go, because we have to locate it on the house. The breaker box somewhere inside or outside the home has to be there, and it could be overhead. It could be underground. Basically, once we're kind of done with the outside of the home, like the brick or the stone or the hardy, like then we can typically at that point start to connect the permanent power. But this can take a lot of time, like Don was saying, especially right now. Because guess what, folks? They're short on labor and on materials, just like the rest of the world is. We're short on labor and supply chain issues. They're looking for the same labor that we are. They're looking for able-bodied hands that can go out and set poles and run power lines and all that kind of stuff. So please explain the difference. What's the question here?
So Barbara's asking, please explain the differences between electrical power pole, member pole, and temporary pole, and also who installs and pays for each and in what order.
All right, so Barbara, you are with the Pertinalis Electric Co-op. I can tell you that already, because that's phrase, that member pole especially is the phrase that pretty much only they use.
Okay.
And here's and it's a really nice way of saying the member provides the pole. We ain't doing it. And I know that's awful to even say. I'm just saying that's what it means. Electric power pole is typically the big ones you'd see on the street. So like in this picture, it's hard to see way back here. But
that's with the transformer on it.
Transformer on it, exactly. So that's your electric power pole. That's where, and you can see the power lines way up high. They're going across. Okay, that's going to be the utility company. Now, in many cases, they're going to charge you if there's nothing there yet to do that. Then the member pole. Okay, so let's do temporary pole. So this is a temporary pole right here. This picture is a temporary pole. So our electricians, Tilson, we provide the temporary pole where there's one needed. Where I am, this is a power company called Mid-South Synergy, Mid-South Electric Co-op. Okay, you don't need a temporary pole with them. When they come out, they set a nice, pretty green pedestal on the ground. They stick a meter in it, and it's got little 110 outlets on the side of it, all in one compact, neat, pretty unit. So you don't have to have a temporary pole in that case. In the cases where you do, which is like this, the electrician, Tilson, we provide the temporary pole. These are reused, so we're not leaving this. So these are done. These are built. The electrician will build 15, 20, 30 of these. By the way, guess what there's a shortage of right now, Don? You'll never believe it.
Electricians?
There's a shortage of electricians. There's a shortage of temporary power poles. There's a shortage of the meter cans that go on the temporary power poles. So, but they'll build 20 or 30 or 50 of these, depends on the size of the electrician, and have them just stacked up, ready to go in their yard. And then when they're ready to go, they send it, they stake it, secure it, and then they have it all built. and they put what's called a meter loop up here. This is just a bunch of wire coiled up, and then the power company comes out, inspects it, gives the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and if it's good to go, they will stick a meter on it. The meter belongs to the power company. That's theirs. And they won't put it on there if the pole doesn't meet their specs. Member pole is talking about permanent power. So when we're done, we're going to need some kind of, and I actually just had it come up. And this is, I'm sorry to do it this way. We can share it if we need to, but this is a member pole. So this is basically a metal pole. This is Pedernales Electric Co-op, and it is, the member has to provide it. Okay, now you can pay Tilson to provide that. Our electricians have access to these that meet PECs and other co-ops specs, but this is not included. When we say that we include 50 feet of electrical run, it does not include an additional, the member pole itself. That's going to be there you go. So the member pole has to be provided. Turn off the little light there, and they want that, the meter can, everything set on there, and then you can have the breaker box on the house. That's all cool. Turn my light on. Oh, there we go. And
there you are.
But anyway, that's what member pole. So member's permanent, temporary is temporary. Power pole is out of the street, typically, and it can be overhead or underground. So, yeah, Barbara. So member pole is member provided. That's an easy way to remember it.
All right. Let's see.
I'm sure there are.
Yes, we have we have multiple questions in here. So Martina is also asking about appraisals in addition. So her power question is, after the power pole is set, is a temporary pole needed, or do you run off the full access pole? So I think we've answered.
So we can run off a full access pole. We don't necessarily have to have a temporary pole.
Okay. And do appraisal prices change based on the size of the home?
I'm not sure. That would be a great question for last week's guest. But I've not seen that, Martina, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. That would be a first for me, but I mean, I can see where if one takes more time to do, I mean, time is money, as the old saying goes. So, but
I think in our case, since we're doing them up front and they're not actually going to the house.
Well, they do drive out there a lot of times, though. They'll drive out to the properties. They have to take pictures of the property, take pictures of the gate, take pictures of comps. But with our preferred lenders, I do not see the prices changing. If I'm wrong about that, Matt or Stephanie or anybody, go ahead and correct me in the comments. But I have not seen those prices come back different. I can't speak for other lenders that we don't work with on a regular basis. I don't know how they do that.
And then she's also asking, how long does an appraisal take to come back after it's been paid for?
Yes. So with record home sales, I'm talking about country. Okay. To say not Tilson. I'm talking about just broadly speaking in our economy. Guess what? There's a finite amount of licensed appraisers, just like there's a finite amount of licensed inspectors. So they take longer than they used to. We typically are seeing them come back in 3 to 4 weeks. I've seen them take as long as 6 weeks. I've seen a few take even longer than that if they're having a hard time finding comps, if they're way, way, way out, like a large piece of property. But I would at least 3 weeks. I'd plan on closer to 5 before I start getting my blood pressure up.
Okay. Makes sense. Let's see. Usman is asking, I'm planning to get a 320 amp service, and I had a few questions related to this. Why does a greater than 200 amp service require a rack? In Tilson's price list, can a rack get added? Because I was asked to get this work contracted out.
Yeah, we don't have so that, again, here we go, Pedernales Electric Co-op. You're going to find a theme here, okay? PEC, and by the way, there's about 6 or 7 different PECs. They're all Pedernales Electric Co-op, but they have different regions out there in Central Texas, in the Hill Country. And by the way, they all have different rules, which is super helpful.
Great.
Yeah. They take the deregulated thing to a whole new level. Now they're good once you're in, okay? Once you're in and hooked up and going, like super reliable, good to go. But they can get a little persnickety about what they want. And to my knowledge, they're the ones that want a rack. My grandparents have a place out between Llano and Marble Falls. And same thing, when we added on to theirs, we had to upgrade to a 320 amp service. And upon doing so, we had to have this big rack built. And I mean, it's like a commercial looking rack. It's not necessarily attached to the house, It's off to the side, but it's not something you're going to go take your Easter photos in front of. Okay, it's just not. Unless you're an electrician and you're like, this is my
Maybe
thing.
proud of it, or maybe it's really expensive, and so you just want to show it
can
off.
be, and I think that's why Usman's asking is they can get pretty pricey. And so to answer your first question is PEC requires it. The co-op, if we're telling you that, it's typically something we've run across. Our electrician or us have come across that the co-op is requiring that type of setup. And in fact, if you ever go to our Georgetown office, which I think is the office you're working with, Usman, if you go to the driftwood model to the master bedroom and look out the window there, you will see, or you can even look off the porch, you'll see our rack that we have built for our service there in Georgetown. And it's way in the back of the property for a reason, because it's unsightly, quite frankly. So,
Yeah.
and they're they're very labor intensive. They're very easy to work on from the co-op's perspective, which is why they're very easy to work on from an electrician's perspective. So I can tell you that's how they came about, is that somebody somewhere got tired of climbing around in someone's attic or in someone's utility room or in someone's garage, and was just like, if we had this gigantic just erector set of metal with everything on it, that would be awesome. And so regulations get made, policies get adopted, and there you are. So that's why. And we don't have pricing for that. I'm not going to say that we couldn't request pricing from our electrician, but it's really good to go with someone who's does it a lot. In fact, a lot of times the co-op will even have recommendations of who they want to use. But if you're not having trouble finding someone to do it, let us know, and we'll work some channels here and figure out somebody to get that rack built for you.
Okay.
But it's a thing.
Yeah. And then we have a question, or Alder Garcia is waiting for a second review of our plans after our final design meeting. Are the next steps going to plans again, final stakeout, land survey, then foundation?
Okay, so we hope we don't. Oh, so go to plans again. Yeah. So we hope to not have to redo plans. But if you do, it does happen. We understand that. So if the plans change enough where we have to go restake the home, or if the home needs to move because the plan's been changed, I don't know specifically, maybe a garage has been added, maybe a porch has been deleted. I don't know. But no, we won't do a land survey at that point. Hopefully we have the surveys already done. Either you provide it to us or we've already ordered that. Because we'll need that to do the stakeout first. So we'll get the stakeout completed. Then we'll do the geotechnical investigation, which is not listed here. So that's got to happen before the foundation can be designed. So the biggest thing we need for the foundation design, we need a signed set of plans. So no more changes. You sign the plans and we don't change anything else. And a geotechnical investigation, which happens after the stakeout, which happens after a survey. So survey, then stakeout, then you sign these plans and we don't make any more changes, because there's no point in sending them to an engineer if we're going to change them again.
Right.
Send them back. And then the foundation is designed, and then whatever permits are left or loan approval, then we can go to construction.
All right, perfect. And then Brandon's commenting on flood zones. FEMA floodplains, not all counties in Texas participate in FEMA's flood planning. Delta County does not. You'll need to find a third party to check for flood zones if you need to know. Yeah,
Brandon, he's right. There's some counties that unsubscribe from FEMA, which, there's pluses and minuses to that. Obviously, it's the floodplains work a little different. It kind of, surveyors get a little itchy and nervous because it becomes this gray area of who's responsible if the house floods, right? If FEMA is on the lines, it's pretty easy to, hey, we did it above where you said to, FEMA pays up. Some counties don't want to participate in that, and I get it, because they have to pay. And anyway, that's he's right. And a lot of times the surveyor can find a benchmark or somewhere. FEMA does have a pretty good website, believe it or not, for a government agency. And you can go to an address, and maybe we can drop that link in the comments. It's on our SharePoint site, Kelsey or Nick, and on the sales page there's a FEMA link at the bottom. You can drop that in. And you can go in, put your address in. Hint, hint, you have to know your address. And you can see if it's zone A, zone AE, zone X, like whatever the zones are, it is on there. So,
okay.
Thanks, Brandon. Good point.
All right. And then Brandon was also sharing that it's taking 90 days to get water on his property. So be diligent and get on the utility company early. TxDOT permits for culverts and utility bores are taking a few weeks for approval as well.
Yeah, he's right. So TxDOT permit I pulled last year, I mean, like February of this year, it took 7 weeks to put a culvert exactly where a culvert already was, just a different size. 7
That's
weeks
efficient.
for the Texas Department. So if you're on a state highway, which by the way includes all farm to market roads. So ranch roads, farm to market roads, those are state highways. Those culverts are regulated by TxDOT. So yeah, it's a little bit different process, but yeah, he's absolutely right. They're working from home.
Sarah is asking, when the plan has gone out to drafting but not yet come back to us for final review, can we make a request to add additional windows to our master suite?
Typically not. We don't typically end up making changes on that kind of stuff until the plans come back. But check with your sales consultant for sure to find out exactly where it is in the process. And but yeah, it's if the drafters have started on something like that, trying to chase something that's being worked on, it can get real messy real quick. So it's best to have all those changes made at one time. Best to not make any changes, but we understand we're in the custom home business. So it is best to capture them all, keep you a list of everything you want done, and capture them all at one time.
Okay. And then one last question about power that I see. Brandon is asking, how close does temporary power and water need to be to the job site?
Man, ideally within 50 feet. That would be ideal. I've seen us work as far away as 100, 120 feet from temporary power. You start to lose quite a bit of amperage, through an extension cord, for instance, when you start running over 120, 150 feet, and we're running big compressors, circular saws, that kind of stuff. They need all the chutzpah they can get. So 50 feet would be optimal. Water's probably not as big a deal because you can buy 100 or 150 foot water hose and you can go 100 or 150 feet. So, and once it's full, it has pressure. So, but power, 50 feet would be ideal. Closer if you can.
And actually, I told a lie. There were more power questions hiding in here. Usman was asking, how easy is it to upgrade from a 200 amp service to a 320 amp in the future? I only needed it for a future electric vehicle.
It's just as hard to do it now as it is to do it then. That's exactly the situation you're describing is exactly what we did for my grandparents. They had to go from because of what we were adding on to their existing home, very similar. They had to go from a 200 to 300, which means we had to hire an electrician to completely rebuild a new service. So it's not easy. So I take the word easy out. It just can be done.
Okay. And then Wesley, who is tuning in from Phoenix and building in Greenville, they're just waiting to be released to construction. When would be the best time to have power turned on?
Okay, so Wes, if you've got everything, if the power company's done, they've done the work, the meter is there, and that's a real key component there. If the meter is there, then find out what their timeline is, okay, on getting that meter turned on, and be sure you're crystal clear about hey, I need to know when I plug something in, it works. Like, how long do y'all need to be notified? They may say 2 days. They may say 2 months. So find that out. But I would verify first that meter is there. Because if the meter's there, that typically means that it's passed all their inspections. They're happy with how it's done. They've installed the meter. And typically when that's done, it's on. Perhaps you're asking, I guess maybe they have a minimum monthly charge or something like that. And if that's the case, yeah, you can wait, but be communicating constantly with your sales consultant, your builder, and that power company. But get that power company's timeline first.
All right. And then Eric is asking if there's a typical average price per linear foot for power beyond the 50 feet. Our pole is 75 feet.
It really does range, Eric. So, anywhere from probably $25 a foot to $75 a foot, depending on if it's, aluminum wire, copper wire. It's in a trench, the conduit, the wire, it's all in, all done. And is it in rock? Is it not in rock? Are we going to encounter rock? And it can range, but your sales consultant can give you the exact price of where you are.
Okay. All right. And let's talk about water.
Let's talk water. If you're lucky enough to get power, because we all know power is more important because that's how you get air conditioning. Now we need to make sure the commode's flush and that we can wash our hands, because you have to wash your hands for 20 seconds. Otherwise bad things happen. So water well, most of our customers are going to be on either, well, most of them are going to be on some type of community type of water. We've seen it's almost 50-50 these days. Water well, so private on your own property, like you drilled a hole in the ground, it is your water. It's a, how do they describe it on the buy once, cry once. So it's done. You paid it. You don't have a water bill from then on out, or you're going to have community water or city water, and that's where they will come out and install a meter. And there are typically options of sizes. You can have a 5/8 diameter, 3/4 inch, 1 inch. There's no reason to go crazy, but each of those typically has a minimum gallons per month that's included with that meter fee. So you got to have in some cases you'll have to even pay a tap fee. So you got a water tap, you got the meter itself, and then once that's in, you just run the line to the house, or if it's within 50 feet, we're running it, or we charge per linear foot over that. Water well, same thing. You got to have the water well there. Also, you got to have power to that well, which that part. So we include the 50 feet of water line. We include the 50 feet of electrical line for the actual service of the home. If we're doing the water well, obviously the electrical to the water well is included. If we're not, we need to work that out. Are we doing it? Is your well guy doing it? Do you have an electrician doing it? We got to find out who's going to be hooking the actual electric up for the water well, for the actual submersible pump that's down there pumping the water up. So, whew. And now, Dawn, what do we do after the water goes all the way through the house? It needs to go somewhere else.
We have to get rid of it. So some people are on, county sewer systems, but the majority of our customers, about 90%, are going to require some type of septic system, which will require a permit, and it will have to be designed by a licensed sanitarium. I think.
Yeah. So, and again, a septic system is just an on-site sewage facility, like OSSF, like it's a miniature sewage treatment plant. There are conventional systems, which are the old just gravity fed. You got tanks in the ground and then a field line going out into the grass. You need to have a lot of sand to be able to do that. TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, they have the rules and regs on septic systems. So the counties do the permitting and the registered sanitarians do the design, but they're all adhering to TCEQ's rules. Most of our customers these days are on an aerobic system. So you have a compressor that's running, you have an aerator. There's not a lot of maintenance. You'll hear that said. It's not a big deal. Have all these problems. They don't. The last 2 houses I've lived in have been on aerobic septic systems. I don't have issues. One had chlorine tablets. One had a liquid chlorinator. They work fine. If you smell something, you have a problem. There's something not working. So
there you go.
Anyway, they're real easy. This one is, the county's going to come out and inspect it to make sure that you put in what you applied and they approved. They typically want to come out and see it before you can cover it up. So anyway, that is septic. It does have to be, even if your county doesn't have a building permit or development permit, the state requires that somebody authorize the septic system.
There we go, septic permit. So I was going to say, to be clear, ideally what we would like you to do right now is just when you're preparing your land, we just want you to get the permit, plan out where it's going to go, get that permit applied for. We don't want you actually installing that septic system until we're further along in construction. If it's already there, we can work around it. But if you haven't put it in yet, wait until we've put all the masonry on your home and we're done bringing in heavy equipment.
Yep. Very cool. And then some folks are going to be all electric, so you're done with utilities. Other folks go for extra credit, and they want natural gas or propane. We have a few places that we build. Some of the cities and even some of the acreage communities we build in that do have natural gas. I live in an acreage community that has natural gas, which is kind of cool. But if not, and you still want to have gas for your cooking or your heating, or maybe for a gas grill or gas fireplace, you are going to have to install some type of a propane tank. LP tank, and it can be above ground, it can be below ground. You can rent them. But anyway, that's for sure. If you want to have a generator or something like that, you need to have a fuel source. So, and it's going to either be LP, natural gas, or there are some I've seen that do diesel, which you're going to need a big diesel tank, and that's going to be attractive. So anyway, find out from the provider what the process is. This does not have to be installed beforehand. This gets installed further down in construction, like Dawn said a while ago. After we're done with the outside of the home, that's a great time to go ahead and we're going to stub out for your gas and then hook this up and go. So, Now we get into the next difficult subject. We got to get on this piece of property.
Yeah, and more importantly, we have to get off this piece of property. On is never the problem. It's off that.
Yeah, we've found that getting on is not a big issue. It's that when those tires get stuck, getting off. So yeah, and we're talking about we're not talking about a pickup truck or even a big SUV like a Suburban or something like that. F-250, F-350, F-450. Those are light duty trucks by commercial definitions. We're talking about concrete trucks, lumber trucks, dump trucks, things that weigh 40 to 80,000 pounds. They got to be able to get in and out all weather. Now, Tilson we can provide this. We can bid it out, get you estimates, and get it done. We got contractors that do that. They're great at doing it. And the best part about that is if something goes awry with that part of it, if we're in control of it, guess who's going to make it right?
We are.
Exactly. Now, we have no issue with someone doing it themselves, but typically speaking, the culverts especially, so a culvert is just a pipe in the ground in the ditch. So if you can't cross the ditch with a big heavy truck because you get stuck or high centered or something. So you put a pipe in there so that water can continue to flow underneath it when it's raining. And then you cover it with typically stabilized sand and then some type of crushed rock or crushed concrete on top of that. And yes, this little plastic pipe will support 80,000 pounds of weight with the proper base on top of it. But yes, circles are amazingly strong geometric features, as it turns out. So anyway, the county is typically going to be determining the size of this culvert. If you're on a county road or in some type of an acre subdivision, if you're on a state highway, like Brandon said earlier, TxDOT is going to tell you the size of this culvert, the diameter of it. Is it going to be 12 inch, 18 inch, 24 inch? Do you need two 18-inch culverts? That's dictated by the people that are responsible for flood control, which is mostly counties or TxDOT. They want to make sure that the culvert goes in at the right angle, because if you put it at the wrong angle, you've just created a lake. So this is not good, and it'll eventually wash out your driveway, and that's a problem. But this is one where a little pig trail through the grass that you can drive the Toyota Tacoma pickup truck through is not going to get it. It does have to be some type of rock stabilized material, at least 12, preferably 16 feet wide, and that's just the drivable part. You need a clearing of a solid 20 feet,
right?
Because we're carrying long pieces of lumber through there on a forklift, so they got to be able to get through. So anything else on site access?
And this absolutely has to be done before we can do any type of soil testing, because that's the first really big truck that we're going to bring in. So you need to have this all-weather access in place before we can do your geotechnical investigation.
Great point. Yeah. The geotech, it's a well drilling rig. I mean, it's a drilling rig. So it comes out, they tilt this big old thing up in the air and drill a bit down into your ground.
Because we're taking those samples directly from where your foundation is going to be. So we have to be able to get that truck there.
All right, Dawn, then what happens? We got all this stuff figured out. We got our utilities done. Now what?
Now we do the site planning and preparation. So that's going to start with your site evaluation, or you may have heard us call it the stakeout meeting. This is where someone from Tilson is going to come out. Your land prep specialist is going to come out to meet you and discuss where we're going to place the home. And that's where they'll talk about things like, where should your construction drive be? Talk about where we think power is going to be coming in, because we don't usually have a lot of control. The power company puts it where they want to put it. They'll talk about the best place to put your septic system, all of that kind of stuff, as they're kind of planning out exactly where your home is going to be. They're going to draw all of this out on your site plan. So they'll be talking about, okay, this is where your electricity is going to connect to your house. This is where water is going to connect to your house. This is where septic's going to go, and draw all of that out so everybody's clear on what we're looking to do. And then they're going to give you this nice to-do list. Here are all the things that we need you to do next. And that's going to be those site preparation things. So telling you if there's any clearing that still needs to be done. Before that stakeout meeting, we would like you to have the footprint of the home basically cleared. If there are some trees that you're worried, you're not sure, you don't want to take them down yet, that's fine. Just mark those, talk that through. But they'll let you know if there's anything else that needs to come down. They'll talk about where, like I said, where that construction drive is going to go, how wide it needs to be, and any other work that needs to be done to the property.
Yeah. And great point. Yeah. You talked about that site plan. We're going to draw that up. You're going to sign off on that. So the homeowner is responsible for verifying in writing, where the home's going to be on the property. And this is why it's so important and also it needs to be mowed. Okay, we need to be ankle high, because we're putting stakes in, we're dragging tapes. So if there's big mesquite trees or cedar trees in the middle of it, if you can't see through it, there's nothing magical about us. Our guys don't have X-ray vision; they can't see through it either. So it does need to be cleared, at least underbrushed and mowed, and then kept mowed. So great points. So at the stakeout meeting, at the site evaluation, we're going to meet you out there. Obviously, locate where the home's going to go. We help you, here where we think the septic's probably going to go based on our experience, where the water's going to come from. But we do need you to be an active participant, obviously, because there's a reason you bought this land, and we don't necessarily know that. What do you want to be looking at from your porch in the back, or what do you want to be looking at from your master bedroom, or where do you want the front door facing? And so think about have had a conversation about this before you go out to the meeting. Again, we're going to help walk you through it, but we don't know what your vision is, and this is where we find that out. So then we're going to measure how far the water and electrical hookups are going to be, and then we're going to both leave with a to-do list of stuff that needs to be done. And you've seen comments on here of what people are working on, and they've got their list and they're rocking and rolling, which is really, really cool. So what about what all is on a site plan, Dawn?
So this is a very fancy site plan because it was one we had to submit for a building permit. But it's going to actually look very much like your initial survey. We're going to pull the information off of that and then actually show where your home is going to be. So it's showing your home placement. It's showing the utility hookups, lines, and where the stubs are going to be. It's going to show the planned septic placement and the spray field for the septic system. If you're going to put in any driveways at that time, any permanent driveways, we're going to show the placement of those as well as the culverts. And it'll also have the building line and easement information so that you can easily verify that we're not building where we shouldn't be building.
Yeah. So this, again, like Dawn said, this one was required by Vintage Oaks. We built this home in there, and Vintage Oaks required all of this information be on the site plan, and it be at a certain scale. So not every subdivision requires this. Not every, in some places, this here is
that
good
one's
enough.
That one's good.
This one's good enough. So less is more. Okay, we're just rocking and rolling. If it's accurate, it's good to go. But it is important. It's in fact, it's imperative that we have a current, accurate survey that has the corners, not just the pins located, but where we can actually find them, like physically see them. So that's really, really important. But yeah, not every site plan will look like that. Then we're gonna if the site hasn't already been cleared. Once we get the house staked, it's okay. They can come in and clear that. We can always go back and reflag where the house is going to go. All that really matters is kind of the 4 outside corners of the building envelope anyway. And that's why we have it pegged down on the paper in case it does get knocked down by cows or whatever. The foundation contractor has a reference of, okay, it's 313 feet from this corner. All that stuff's done. But the trees need to come out, and the stumps and roots, the root balls also. Don't just cut the tree. Don't let somebody just talk you into, we'll just cut the trees off and take those, and then your builder will take care of the either they clear it or they don't. Get with us. We'll get you set up with a great clearing contractor, or we can bid to have it done, included in the contract. But it's got to be gone. We love keeping the trees. That's why they moved to the country. But there are trees that can do more harm than good when they're too close to a foundation, and we'll help walk you through those as well. Dawn, should we pause for questions?
Yes, let's do that. So we have a question about septic systems. Regarding an aerobic spray septic system, what are the pros and cons, if any, to having the septic tank installed in the front of the house versus the rear? Based on some quotations, I was told that the tank will be installed in the front of the house because they need negative slope and they can place the sprays at the rear. Should I be concerned about that?
Yeah, no concern, Usman. So what they're talking about is, so water goes downhill unless you spend money. That's first rule of civil engineering. So what they're saying is, it sounds to me that your property drains from back to front, and we're going to probably stub the sewer out the front. The septic stub will be out the front because the tanks need to be lower than the house, because all the water, and it has to be lower than the furthest point away. So whatever commode or sink or whatever is furthest away, it's got to go downhill all the way from there to where the tanks are going to be.
Okay.
And so what they're saying is, if your property goes up towards the back, that's going to be tougher to do, because now you're digging a deeper. You have to dig a deeper hole. which could affect the price, obviously, particularly if you're not digging in dirt, if you're digging in rock. So that's probably what they're saying, that there's no issue with having it up there. I mean, all you're going to end up seeing whenever the tank is in, there, you can go back to this one, Dawn, and show them. All you're going to see is these little green access panels on the top. You won't see any of the rest of this concrete box. You're only going to see the very tops of those little green access panels and the compressor here. That's it. That's all you're going to see. The rest of it's going to just be grass or whatever you want to plant around it. Just like, you're going to have an AC unit sitting somewhere on the side of your house and potentially a propane tank. And so, and they're green for a reason, to try and match the grass when it's growing. But anyway, that's what's got to be done. And if they're telling you in the front is better, then that's the way it needs to be, probably, because they are the designer. And then, you can run your spray heads to the back, because they're just on the irrigation pump that's in that third chamber of that septic tank. And when it hits it has a float switch on it. When water reaches a certain level, it says, I need to turn on and discharge some of this water that's been treated. And it just kicks on sprinkler heads and they go. It's not going to be enough to water your whole yard, but putting that in the back is perfectly fine. Think about future, like if you want to do kind of future buildings or pool or something like that. Obviously, don't tell your septic designer, I'm thinking I might do something like that here. But beyond that, there's no issue with having. And plus, about once every 6 or 7 years, depending on use, you'll need to get the tank pumped out. It's not a big deal. Obviously, that's easier to do if it's in the front.
Yeah,
truck can get to it.
All right. And then Felina is asking, my parents are gifting myself plus fiance and 2 siblings a piece of land in Hayes County, 6 acres. Would Tilson approve a home loan under just me and my fiance's name, or does everyone on the deed need to be on the mortgage?
So if they're all
and also, does a plat suffice in place of a survey?
No, a plat will not suffice in place of a survey. You need to have a survey done. And actually, we're in Hayes County. We're talking about doing this. They may require that it be platted or replatted. Now, so a plat can be a survey. The plat can be a survey. Those words can be used interchangeably. So if you have a surveyor who's doing this in Hayes County and they've checked with the county and they're doing whatever the county requires, if it's a plat or a replat, then that will suffice. It'll have the dimensions. It'll have corner pins. If it has dimensions, corner pins located, the surveyor's seal on it and their signature, it's good. When we say a plat's not good enough, it's if like someone gives us a subdivision plat that's got 38 lots on it and yours is lot 14 in the middle and that's all the information, like that we can't use. That's enough to get us to the property and kind of where it is, but it is not enough for us to permanently tie down the home to that. We need to have more information than that to locate the house accurately. Whoever's going to be buying the house, the land has to just be in their name, basically. So if the land is in all 4 of y'all's names, then all 4 of you would have to be on the contract. You don't necessarily have to all 4 be on the mortgage, but you would all 4 be on the contract, which would effectively make all 4 responsible for paying that amount of money. Otherwise, your 2 siblings could deed their interest over. Now, I'm not an attorney and I don't practice. I don't pretend to be one. The world's got enough of those. So what you would probably need to do, I would talk to a real estate attorney, maybe even the title company about, and call Matt Howe with AMCAP or Stephanie Morgan with CMG and ask them who would need to be on the mortgage specifically. But if you don't intend to live with these people, I wouldn't be on the same deed as them personally.
Okay.
I would have them. I would like, if it were me and my brother and it was my other brother and his wife that were moving here, I'd want me and my brother's interest deeded over to them. I wouldn't want anything to do with the repayment of that note.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Brandon is asking. I know your brothers. Brandon is asking if the electrical co-op is doing all the line work to the house, is there a credit for the 50 linear feet that Tilson includes in the price of the home?
There is, Brandon. Yeah. So your sales consultant can give you the credit. If they're going to run it all the way to the house, which is awesome. We'll credit that back to you.
Yeah, and this has come up before. There are certain ones that they will run the line, but they want us to run the conduit. So if we need to do that part, you would get the credit for the line itself, but we'd still charge for the conduit.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then he's asking about same thing. What about overhead clearance? So yeah, that would be you get credited.
We don't include any overhead clearance in ours, but overhead clearance, I think, because I was talking about he's wanting to know how high.
Oh, okay.
So we need. I don't want any less than 16 feet. So you figure, think about when you're driving down a highway and you see on an interstate and you see the clearance on there, it's like 13'4" or 13'10". So that's about how tall an 18-wheeler with a trailer on top of it behind it is. So for me, 16 feet. I want 16 feet to be safe.
Okay. All right. And then Usman's asking, from the transformer to the rack, I wanted to go underground. Can the trenching for the transformer to the rack be handled by Tilson as part of the 50 feet, or does that only start from the rack to the house?
Yeah, it's our 50 feet from the house, Usman. Great question. Our 50 feet is from the house.
Okay. Anthony is asking if a site evaluation can be done prior to Tilson being hired, mainly asking because of our driveway. It's 200 feet uphill and is raw limestone. I'm looking to build in Canyon Lake.
So potentially, Anthony. Now, obviously, we have to take care of the paying customers first. So if a site evaluator or stakeout superintendent happens to be caught up in that area, then potentially. But it's going to be a long shot right now because Comal County is a super busy area.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I know maybe that doesn't quite answer your question, but yeah, without looking at it, we won't be able to tell you. You could get even get a concrete contractor or somebody to run by there and say, hey, because that's really who it comes down to, honestly, is the concrete company. We could even go out and say that it's a place that's totally fine. Obviously, we have close relationships with our concrete companies and concrete contractors, but they have the last call. If they go out there and they think it's going to be unsafe or unfit for their vehicles and they're going to put their assets in jeopardy, they will not do it.
Okay.
If they're going to have to pay a wrecker, because that's when things get messy. When concrete trucks get stuck and you got concrete getting hard in the back,
Mm-hmm.
that's a problem. And you have 9 other trucks lined up spinning concrete. After a while, it will start to cure.
Right.
That's a very expensive problem. So that's what they're trying to avoid. But I mean, if it's raw limestone, you're probably fine. I will say that I've been on pieces of property that we thought it was raw limestone, and we probed it or hit it with the foundation. The geotech investigators, they're going to go out there in those situations. They won't typically drill a hole. They'll dig a test pit. So they'll take like a mini excavator or a backhoe, and they'll dig. And sometimes we find that that's like 4 or 5 inches thick, and then it's not rock right below that. And again, without knowing beneath that, it's hard to say for sure. But check with our San Marcos or Bernie design centers, and we can check the availability of one of our site evaluators, but it's probably going to be several weeks before we can come out there.
Okay. All right. And then we had a question from someone who had a pre-stake out, but did not leave with a to-do list, only that I need to clear trees and then stake out will be done. Is this normal?
It is normal. Yeah. So this is a paying customer. This is not a pre-stake as in we don't, so they're under contract with us. The site evaluator went out to the property and couldn't really do anything because it wasn't cleared. So, we weren't able to take measurements. We weren't able to shoot grade shots. We weren't able. So those are things that we will do once the site is cleared. And yes, that is normal practice right now. Mm-hmm. So maybe it'll be cooler next time we do the actual stakeout for you.
Yep. All right. And then Brandon is asking, can a 50 amp outlet be added to a temporary pole for RV camping on weekends?
They can, but our electricians aren't going to do it. So you'd have to hire an electrician to do that. Okay. Yeah, we have plenty of customers that have that. And in a case like that, it's not usually going to be on the temporary pole. It's going to be built on kind of a little separate service closer to the meter is what we've seen that done.
And yeah, Brandon verified that he was talking about clearance above the drive. He's got mature oaks, so it's important to know how much he needs to trim on them.
That's good, because I hate those immature oaks. They're so juvenile.
Throw acorns at you and stuff. It's terrible.
Nobody.
All right. You want to jump back in?
You bet. Let's go to Groundwork and finish these folks out so they can get on about their day of sitting at home watching it rain. And any needed dirt work. Okay, so this presentation applies to the whole state of Texas for us guys.
Right.
So in some cases we'll be doing a dirt pad. Some cases we're building to the added level right on the dirt. Like we scrape it and then we set forms right there. But basically we got to get a level surface done in one way or the other. We do drainage work to make sure we can maintain positive drainage away from the foundation. That's very important. That'll be mentioned at your site evaluation meeting. And then now finally something fun has to. So all this pre-construction stuff gets finally done. And now the part that everybody asks about, how long does it take to build a home? This is what they're asking about, from foundation to completion. What most folks are not preparing for is that 3, 4, 6 months or more of pre-construction stuff, of permitting, of engineering, of selection, of clearing, of geotechnical investigation, getting power run, getting water run. Like Brandon said, it took 90 days to get water run by the local utility company to this place. So guys, this is not necessarily because we're just backed up. This is the whole world. All of these service providers are also backed up. So your power companies, your water entities, permitting, your counties that do the septic and building permitting, they're backed up too. They're shorthanded. They've got people rotating in and out. They have COVID. They can't come in. Their kid got COVID at school. Now they have to quarantine. Like they get shorthanded. So that's what you're feeling and seeing. And I regret that that's part of the experience that everybody's going through, but it's reality, and the whole world is dealing with it. In a case where the supply has never been so low and demand's never been so high. So it's a tough recipe, but we will get it done. It just takes longer. So summary, we did a lot of stuff today.
We did.
I keep asking questions, of course. We were going to answer all these questions. So if you got any other questions, please put them into the chat. We'll answer them as long as it takes for us to get through them. We will absolutely answer them. But Dawn, take us through a summary of what all the stuff you need before we can even think about starting.
Yep. So if you're tuning in late, this is what you missed. We talked about all the important documents. So why you need the deed, what part of it is, what's included in a valid deed, why we recommend title insurance, having a plat and a survey and what the difference is. Looking for deed restrictions and 911 addressing. Talked about utilities, so getting power, water, septic or sewer, gas or propane. Providing site access, so all-weather access and culverts, and then the site plan and preparation. So what happens at your site evaluation, stakeout, putting together the site plan, clearing your site, and also the necessary groundwork before we can lay your foundation.
Beautiful. All right. Well, that was easy. We could have done that in like 2 minutes.
We did a lot of stuff.
Nothing to it. So is this last call for questions right now? Last call.
Yes.
All right. So, guys, we know that this is a heavy subject. We know that there's a lot of unknowns out there, and we do the best we can to kind of prepare you. I know someone asked is there a step-by-step list? We're working on that, actually. We're working on that, but we also have, I think as we mentioned, we have a lot of videos on our Vimeo and YouTube channels that walk you through the entire process, what to expect. But to ask if there's one list that could cover the whole state of Texas, there's just not. Every piece of property is different. Every water entity is different. Every power company is different. Every county is different in what they require. So unfortunately, it gets pretty granular. The good news is your local design centers have a great knowledge of that local area and kind of what's required, what needs to be done. I can typically walk you through that fairly easily, and it's just a couple of phone calls. We do help you every step of the way. You got your sales consultant that's helping you. We usually have sales associates there that do this stuff too, and we have new home coordinators. Their whole job is to do nothing but help you with this back end stuff, because we know it's a lot to take on.
Right.
It's a lot for us, and we've been doing it for almost 100 years. So we know it can be overwhelming. Don't worry, we're here to help.
We've done it before. We've seen it all. Yes. All right. Cody is asking, should we wait until construction begins to get a well dug, or should we have it done beforehand?
Cody, it depends on where it's going to go and if you want to use it. But yeah, I mean, basically right when we're doing, we have some people that'll wait till after the foundation's placed to do it. But particularly if it's going to be close to the slab somewhere, we don't want it getting destroyed, run over, because we're out there in the dark with 80,000 pound concrete trucks backing up, pulling forward. It's a lot.
Trying to get the concrete out of the truck before it cures.
Yeah, so there's a lot happening, and we definitely don't want to tear something up. But if it's, if it's 50 or 150 feet away, it's not going to be a problem. But yeah, typically shortly right after that. And right now, especially, I'm glad you asked, because a lot of these well contractors, shocker, they're backed up. They're 6 and 8 weeks out in some cases on getting a water well put in. So you get on the list and put down a deposit or something like that, and then you're on the list. You're on the wait list. But 2 months is about how much longer everything is taking now, 2 to 3 months. Where we used to be able to run out and just start construction as soon as a file got released to construction. Well, now what happens is it goes and gets in line with the foundation contractor, who, guess what? He's about 2 months out, in some cases 3. So that's just the way it is. There's a shortage of labor, and I can't emphasize that enough right now. There's more demand than there is supply, and that's not only because of COVID, because this was going on in 2019 before anyone even could spell COVID. This was happening. The United States was already 3.84 million homes short of what the demand was. COVID just exacerbated that. Now it's over 5.4 million homes short. And there's not any more labor. So bear with us. Bear with these other companies, these contractors, these counties, maybe the cities, maybe not. We don't bear with them. But
just move out of them.
Yeah, co-ops, bear with them. I mean, they're getting horsey or upset is not going to make it go any faster. Particularly if they're the only game in town. That's a good way to find yourself at the bottom of the list. This is catching more flies with honey than vinegar these days, guys. And that's just the way. Good old-fashioned Southern hospitality will go a long way. Trust me, I've tried both. What else, Dawn? What should people be prepared for? What should they need to know? And
just have patience, as you were talking about, and it's very exciting for most people. You're only going to do this once, so enjoy it. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn things you never knew you didn't know, and probably you didn't really want to know. But it's all going to be worth it in the end. So just bear with us, and it's going to be a great home at the end.
Obviously, we've got a lot of information for you guys. We have. I'm not hundreds of videos yet, but we're close. We may have hundreds. If you count all
well, we now have 72 of these types of videos.
So 72 of these. That's a lot of these.
It's a lot.
We have some craftsmanship videos. We have a lot of content on our YouTube channel and Vimeo. What's the advantage of watching some of the stuff on Vimeo, Dawn, as opposed to on YouTube? What might the different experience be?
So YouTube did this thing last year that made us very sad. They decided, it used to be, if you were seeing a commercial in a YouTube video, the person who made the video that you were originally watching was the one who said, hey, put a commercial in it and pay me money. But now YouTube has said, hey, if you don't want to make money off commercials, I'm going to make money off commercials. So they can put commercials into our videos, and we don't want that. So that's the advantage of Vimeo. So you can go directly to our Vimeo channel, or anything that you watch on our website is actually coming off of our Vimeo channel for that very reason, so that there's no commercials.
Because nobody likes ads. Nobody likes ads.
Advertising people don't even like ads. Let's be honest.
So it takes a genius like Dawn to figure this stuff out, to make your experience better, which is her whole aim in life. And she does a great job at it. So anyway, Vimeo channel, Facebook page, YouTube channel. We have the Tilson website, tilsonhomes.com. Tons of information there. We've got, we have these sales centers, right? We have these places people can go.
We do.
We have highly qualified staff there, Tilson family, ready to help you answer all these questions, walk you through the process, design your home the way you want it done. They're open 7 days a week. Love to hear from you guys. We got an online sales team that will take your phone calls. Make sure you have an appointment set, because that way you get the most out of your time. You get all your questions answered. You get undivided attention. So do that. And we really genuinely soon to hope you make you part of the Tilson family. So with that, we'll see y'all next time.
Bye, everybody.